You are Locked On Bulls Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Bulls Postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. My name is Joe George. You find me on Twitter at JoeGeorge92, Instagram, TikTok at JoeGeorge Radio. So the Chicago Bulls lose 132-123 to the Indiana Pacers, move to 10-14 on this season. 24 games in, 4 games below 500, about where we thought the Bulls would be, but a very tough night for the Bulls defensively. And we're going to talk about that in the first segment because lack of effort, becoming a get-right team again for a team that's struggled offensively this year continues to be a theme for the Bulls, and just some weird stuff that's happening in transition in this game. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the comeback attempts. They got, they were down 16. They got it down to 3, multiple runs to get it to 6, and then eventually to 3. They just can't complete the job in this one. Zach LaVine had a great third quarter and overall a very impressive game, so we'll hit on that in the third and final segment of tonight's show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to Locked On Sports Chicago here on YouTube. Reminder, we do this after every single Bulls, Bears, Cubs, and Notre Dame game, especially the college football game. Cannot wait for the playoff to start for Notre Dame because at least I got one winning team in my life, and that's the Irish right now. It is not the Chicago Bulls on a night like tonight. Look, the defense tonight was terrible. It was terrible. The Bulls have just become a get-right team. The Indiana Pacers come in. They are struggling this year. Tyrese Halliburton specifically is struggling. He's going off. He's hitting threes left and right. They're just having no problem against the Bulls defense. And you look at what happened, a couple key moments in this game before we kind of deep dive into some of the specific issues of this one. Let's talk about the third quarter, first of all, and then we'll go back to the second quarter. The first and the third quarter, the Bulls offense is great, right? They have the lead at the end of the first. They're up by 4. The third quarter, there's 75 points scored between these two teams. So the Bulls, after a terrible shooting performance in the second quarter, come back out. They get back on track, but they just can't do anything defensively. They cannot stop the Indiana Pacers whatsoever again in the third quarter. But it really is the second quarter that does the Bulls in tonight as they lost to the Pacers. They were outscored 36-19. They were terrible. They were 0 for 8 from the three-point line. They couldn't hit anything. Didn't matter if it was a starter or a bench player. They could not hit the broadside of a barn in this game, in the second quarter. To be outscored that much, to score less than 20 points in a quarter, it's just going to put the Bulls in a deficit that's really challenging to overcome. And, yes, we've seen this team come back from 20 points down, but a night like tonight, in those games, you would get stops. You would see the Bulls get some stops. Well, pretty consistently throughout this game, the Bulls were, they get it down to 6, and then, the Pacers come back down. Halliburton, Miles Turner, someone would hit a 3. The Bulls eventually in the fourth quarter, they get down to 3 points. Right away, they go on a quick little run to start the fourth quarter. And then the Pacers immediately respond every single possession. It felt like every time the Bulls hit a 3 or a big shot, the Pacers came back down and they followed it up. There was just no defense. The defense was optional for the Chicago Bulls tonight, and that's been something that we knew going into the season wasn't going to be very good. The style of play was going to lead to an up-and-down pace game, but the Pacers are playing good defense at times in this game, and the Bulls they couldn't do it. They could not get anything done defensively. I mean, to outscore the Pacers in 3 of the 4 quarters, but to lose by 9 points is tough. You outscore them by 4 in the first, 3 in the third, 1 in the fourth. You get outscored 36-19 in the second quarter, and it's just going to do you in. And you talk about a get-right game. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, 23 points, 5 and 9 shooting from the three-point line. Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, who haven't had their best season so far. Look, both teams are now 10-14, but we know the Pacers are supposed to be a much better basketball team, right? But this records at this very moment now stand the same. Those two guys, Siakam and Turner, go combined 6 for 10 from the three-point line. Obi Toppin goes 3 for 4. So all their guys were just hitting shots. And the thing is, they're just not contested, and that's why you see the Pacers shoot 62% from the three-point line. I mean, the Bulls shot 42%. They took 53s. They were 21 of 50. The Pacers were 18 of 29. So they were just much more efficient in this game, taking their threes when it mattered. And it's what the Bulls are. We know that. But my gosh, can somebody just please make a stop? Be in a position. And that's the thing. I don't even feel like the Bulls were in position to make a lot of stops in this game. There was just wide open buckets. One of the other possessions, or 3 possessions in a row, that drove me nuts in this game. The Bulls are getting back in transition, and 3 separate times Kobe White ends up one-on-one with one of the taller Pacers players, whether it's Turner, Siakam. I think one of them might have even been Obi Toppin. But 3 straight possessions to where they're literally just throwing the ball, lobbing it over Kobe White's head to whoever's on offense, and they're getting easy buckets. How can that happen 3 possessions in a row? Like, Billy Donovan is usually like pretty good at timeouts, but like you got to stop that. And it did stop, to their credit. Like, it didn't keep happening. But they just have 3 straight offensive or defensive possessions where Kobe White is there and he is posted up in transition against the big man. It's just going to end in disaster. And that was a big part of what the Pacers' run was in the second quarter there. They just couldn't get anything going defensively really in this game. I mean, the turnovers, like, it's 13-12. That's fine. The steals, 9-8. Like, none of this game really statistically, like when you just look, kind of plainly at the box score, says, okay, well, the Bulls got killed in this game, but the second quarter and just the lack of, not being able to come up with a stop when you're trying to make these runs is a huge thing. And this is something else we've heard multiple times throughout this season, through 24 games, multiple times. The Pacers scored the 3rd most points of their season in tonight's game. 132 points, that's their 3rd highest mark of the year. And that happens far too often, where we're listening to the broadcast and they're at the end, into the 4th quarter, Adam Amin is dropping in that little nugget. And the Bulls have, again, helped the team to score the most 2nd or 3rd most points of the year. So the Bulls are clearly just like, people look at them defensively and they're kind of a get-right game. And it's not even always the Bulls players' fault. Like, it's not always awful defense, but they just seem to be on the unfortunate side of being a get-right game for pretty much everyone in the NBA. And on Sunday, they played the Philadelphia 76ers at noon, and they just beat the Orlando Magic, and they've been really struggling this year. But that's another game where we'll kind of just be watching to see how the Chicago Bulls, if they can find an answer defensively, because this is, we've talked about this before as well. A night like tonight where there's a couple, really big guys for the Indiana Pacers, the Bulls are also just severely size mismatched in this game, where, between Turner, Siakam, especially guys like that can go inside and outside. That's a huge weakness for a guy like Vooch, who's obviously not very quick on his feet, but the Bulls just don't have a lot of big depth right now. And when you play a team like the Magic or the Pacers or, kind of even a little bit the 76ers, I mean, I don't even know if Joel Embiid's going to play or not. It's hard to keep up with that guy of when he is or is not going to be on the court, but they're just not set up well to defend against these teams who have big guys inside, and then they don't play great defense around the perimeter. And that's how you see the Indiana Pacers shoot 62% from the three-point line, outscore you 36-19 in the second quarter. And as much as they tried to get back into this game, they just were not able to get it done. So in the next segment, we'll talk about those comeback attempts of sort, and really just what we saw from the Bulls from start to end in this game next year on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel on the Locked On Bulls Postcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Oh, Robinhood's not going to let me open here, so we are going to just talk here for a quick second before we get to Robinhood. Robinhood, all right, we're just going to pause. I know this is very awkward because it's live, but we have no other option right now. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood LLC. All right, let's look back through the big picture of this game. Just kind of go through what happened. So we talked about, obviously, the defensive issues, but this game starts off kind of slow for both teams here. Zach LaVine ends up scoring 7 of the first 12. We'll talk about him more in the next segment. I wasn't totally sure what we were going to see from Modest Buzelis tonight. Like, we know that Kobe White, Lonzo, and Modest were all going to be back on the court for the Bulls. Nice to see Kobe White back out there. Not his best game, not his worst either. But Modest Buzelis, they show him before the game, he doesn't have the mask on. So, they mentioned it on the broadcast that he might wear it, but he actually does. He comes out there. He struggles. He hits a bucket right away. He hits a 3 right away. It puts the Bulls up 10-8. And like I said, Zach LaVine hit 7 of the first 12. Vooch hits a 3 out of the timeout to make it 15-12. You both get the Io and Modest. They hit threes. They force a turnover. The Bulls are down 1. It's 22-21. A Modest block to a Kobe White 3. So Modest, another good night on the boards. Just kind of defensively all over the place. He's really just finding his rhythm on defense as well. Like, we focused a lot on the offense, but he's just there. And you can tell, like, he's very, like, obviously kind of a lanky kid, but he's finding a way to play really good defense. And after one, look, the Bulls were up 35-31. That was a good start to the first quarter. We talked about those 3 possessions in a row where Kobe White is just getting destroyed defensively, where he's in the post against a big guy. They're outscored 21-15 pretty much right away in the third quarter, and it was 36-19. So they got just absolutely smoked. They go 0 for 8 in the second quarter. They were shooting above 50% in the game at the start of that quarter. They dropped to like 42%, 41% there by the end of the second because they were just absolutely terrible. Third quarter comes out, Lonzo Ball. He starts to play. He played well tonight. Like, not a lot of minutes for what we're seeing from Lonzo right now, but he played pretty good again. Had a nice defensive effort there where he got a steal in this game, hit a couple threes, some good assists. So Io, at some point here early on in the second quarter, he gets a steal and a bucket. He gets 5 straight points. All of a sudden, the Bulls are right back down to 5. We have a full-on Bulls moment. I don't even know how to describe this in any other way. Zach LaVine, well, I thought it was going to be the worst turnover of the night until the end of the fourth quarter there with whatever happened on the inbound pass. What a disaster that was. The amount of inbound pass turnovers the Bulls have this year is baffling. They are so terrible sometimes when there's any pressure at just inbounding the basketball. The simplest of basketball things, sometimes they just do it so terrible. But LaVine has a terrible turnover. He got the steal right back, and he puts it up, and he gets a 3. He gets an and 1, and he gets all 3 points there. So they're kind of battling at this point. This is where those runs start to kick in, where the Bulls are getting back down to 6. And as we talked about in the first segment, they're not playing any defense. So it gets down to 6. The Pacers, they hit a 3. The Bulls miss a shot. The Pacers get another one. All of a sudden, it's back to 10 or 11 points. And they just keep going back and forth, kind of swinging in this momentum. But there's 75 points total scored in the third quarter. Zach LaVine had 16 of his points in the third. But look, they were down by as much as 16. They got it down to 10. So they're down 103-93 at the end of the third quarter. So the game's in their reach, at least. Like, for what this Bulls team can do offensively, it's there for the taking at the end of the third quarter. Because of that disastrous second, they're behind a ton, but they're battling. And then in the fourth quarter, we kind of see it again. Like, right away, they go on a 7-0 run to start the fourth quarter, or I guess it was a 6-0 run. They get it back down to 4 points, and that's when the back and forth starts there, where they get it down to 3, they get it down to 4, and well, the Pacers, they're shooting 62% from the three-point line, and the Bulls are they're not playing any defense. Like, they're just not making stops in any moment that they really need to. And then very quickly, it was back to 11 points. It was tough. Like, they had it right there. It was down to 3 points, and all of a sudden, I looked up, and it was back to an 11-point lead for the Indiana Pacers. So they tried to battle back in this game. Like, they got a good effort offensively. Even there, I put a note here of just, Vooch hits the 3 to put it back down to 8 in the fourth quarter there with about 3 minutes to go, 3:04 I think it was, left to go in the game. So you think that, okay, they got one last shot here to make a run at it, and they didn't do anything. That was when, I can't even read what I wrote because it has a bunch of cuss words in it. That turnover there at the end, just on the inbound pass, was just embarrassing. It was an embarrassing play. TJ McConnell, they kept talking about it on the broadcast. I don't understand how the Bulls just seem to have these guys. Maybe every NBA team does. Like, maybe we just don't watch enough of the NBA, or maybe I don't even know who the Bulls player would be. Like, they're all pretty solid players. Like, I don't feel like anyone tortures you, but TJ McConnell has just been a nuisance for the Bulls. Like, it doesn't matter what team he's on, whether it's the Pacers or Sixers. That guy is just, he's not that good of a basketball player. He is a fine basketball player, but he constantly just has fits for the Bulls. And you look at what the team did overall tonight. I mean, Nikola Vucevic, not his best night shooting, 5 for 11. I mean, that's good, but you could have used a lot more. To go from 39 points to 13, and we kind of see the opposite with Zach LaVine. He goes from 11 to 32. They just can't get these guys, the big point total both at the same time. It's been a while since we've seen, both Vooch and LaVine go off in one game. Kobe White was fine in his return. Besides, I don't even think it was his fault necessarily getting matched up against those big guys in transition, but he couldn't really shoot the ball very well from 3. 4 for 12 looks like a nice percentage, but to take that many shots, kind of just my systematic belief that if you're going to take 12 threes, I need you to make at least 50% of them. Especially when you shoot 7 for 19 on the night overall. So really bad performance, offensively for the most part from Kobe White. He does end up with 19 points and 19 assists. Io's got 15 in this game. He continues to be fun to watch. I love watching Io just attack the rim. He did this a lot in last night's game. He did it again tonight where, man, he just got a different gear in him, and just the way that he can get the ball on one end of the court and then just blow by everybody. He just has a gear that not many guys in the NBA. So we saw that quite a few times tonight as well. Modest Buzelis, 2 for 7 from the field, not his best night. They started talking about this during the broadcast. I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm curious what Billy Donovan will have said here in the post-game press conference if it was asked of him, or if Modest Buzelis will talk about it after this game or before the Philly game on Sunday. They kept asking if he could see very well. And I couldn't tell if it was rookie mistakes, because they started talking about it when he had the ball offensively, and I think it was TJ McConnell being kind of a pest and coming up out of the side, and you could it looks like he has no peripheral vision on the play. It's that bad of a play. It looks like he's totally unaware of what's happening to his side. So that might be the mask there. I'm guessing it is. So maybe we go to the clear mask. I did enjoy Stacey King and Adam Amin's Batman voices. They were a better effort than the Bulls defense, but they weren't great either. So I appreciate the effort for the Batman mask for Modest Buzelis tonight. So he's fine. Taylor Horton-Tucker, only 2 points in this one, only 6 minutes. So that's where we see the change, where he's put up 14.66 points per game over this stretch that Kobe White was out and a little bit more. We see immediately his minutes drop significantly now that Kobe White is back and Lonzo is back here on the back-to-back. So no surprise there. And we see Lonzo play 17 minutes in this game. So hopefully that just continues to grow as well. I think the more Lonzo, the better for the Bulls, whatever they are until February at least. We'll see what happens at the deadline. I know there's the speculation. We mentioned it a little bit yesterday. I'm sure it's all Bulls fans are really thinking about right now is, that they're trying to or, wanting to move Lonzo Ball as part of this trio of moving them out of the Chicago out of the Bulls. But for now, I am excited to see Lonzo. They mentioned it on the broadcast as well. ESPN.com did do a great piece about Lonzo Ball not playing for 1,000 days and kind of his last-ditch effort on his surgery to get back on the court. So I definitely recommend reading that. We all know what Lonzo's gone through, but kind of the in-depthness of this piece, I didn't know a lot of it. So just kind of cool to see that perspective as well. So let's talk about Zach LaVine and his performance tonight in the final segment of the show. Any other comments you guys got here, we can drop on in as well. We'll do that next year on the Locked On Bulls postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I've been telling you guys for a while that this is a leg up that FanDuel is giving you that a lot of other betting sites do not, or sports books do not give you, to be able to have everything at your fingertips, to make an informed bet on the same page where you place your bets. It just streamlines the whole entire process for you. So just visit FanDuel.com today to join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $150 that FanDuel is giving you for just placing, and winning your first $5 bet. So make a smart bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, Zach LaVine tonight. He was pretty good. Again, this is, last night, he has 11 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds, nearly gets a triple-double in last night's game. So we're seeing that, he really has changed a lot as a basketball player. I find it fascinating. We joked about this a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, about Zach LaVine kind of trying out for other basketball teams. It felt like as he was playing, it's a very different Zach LaVine we're watching right now. And I like it a lot, honestly. It bums me out that he probably won't be a Bull after February, because you think back to what it was with DeMar DeRozan and Vooch, and not that that's a championship level team or anything like that, but just felt like a lot of times in the past, LaVine was always kind of just shot hunting for himself. But what we're seeing from Zach LaVine right now, I think, is maybe some of the best basketball he's actually played in his career, honestly. And, last night's game is a great example where he's not forcing up to shot, but he's just kind of doing everything. We've seen other games where it's almost like he's too deferential, where he's trying to get other guys involved. But then you see nights like tonight where he scores 7 of the first 12. He scores 16 points in the third quarter. The defense obviously still leaves tons to be desired, and that's not anything that I think we should ever expect now or into his future expect from Zach LaVine. But on a night like tonight where you're going back and forth, you need a performance like you got from Zach LaVine to even try to be in this basketball game. And he goes 5 for 9 from the 3-point line, 32 points, 12 of 22, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. So not as high as numbers as yesterday in terms of rebounds and assists, but he's still, again, just kind of doing everything. So it just kind of bums me out, man. I just think that I would have liked to see this basketball player a little bit sooner. And they talked a lot about his maturity and his growth personally, and how that's kind of translated to his basketball style and his career so far, he feels like, this year. But he's just playing really good basketball night in and night out. And if you just got more consistent defensive effort from him, he would be the player that we all kind of hoped he would be when he first was traded to the Chicago Bulls. And he's kind of, in my opinion, turned into the player I've always wanted him to be as he's probably about to leave the Chicago Bulls. I always knew it was going to be defensively, but just the way that he's not forcing it as much, especially when there's been multiple shows we've done this year where it's please take some shots. Please come try to be Superman here a little bit and get the Bulls out of these funks that they're in. And that's really what he did in the third quarter tonight by just taking over. And obviously there's so many points scored, but for the Bulls to have I think it was 39 points in the third quarter, and he's scoring 16 of them. He's just really handling that quarter in such an efficient way. And the weird thing about this stretch too from LaVine that they pointed out on the broadcast was his mid-range shot has not been very good recently. It's not been as effective. We're not seeing some of the turnaround jumper stuff that we've seen throughout his career. It's really just been the 3-point line or attacking the basket. And yes, I can't quit. I can't quit Zach LaVine. I just can't do it. I can't quit him. I'm gonna be jealous when he's on the Lakers playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis or wherever he ends up. Won't be rooting for him because I don't play that game. But I'll be watching from afar when he's traded. But I just thought he was a good player tonight. And the last 2 games, it just shows you how much I think he's grown as a basketball player without DeMar DeRozan. And that's no slight to DeMar. It's just LaVine's just been better than I expected. I kind of thought this season would go the opposite way for Zach, where he would just be constantly just jacking up shots left and right and trying to put his point total up as much as possible so he could show teams hey, I can score with anybody. And we're seeing it on nights like this, but just in retrospect of last night's game, where he nearly had a triple-double, I just think he's playing good basketball right now for the Bulls and for the time being. I know he said to that fan last week he wants to be a Chicago Bull. Don't think he's going to get his wish that he's going to stay in Chicago. I know everyone loves living in the city and things like that, but I do think that he will not be getting his wish come February when the trade deadline quickly appears. One more thing here, because we had a comment about Lonzo Ball looking really good as well. Another guy that just more besides the story and everything. I'm impressed with Lonzo, how good he looks just coming off. And that was just a wrist injury. So it's not like the knee injuries of the past. But, Lonzo has played, he's played really efficient, minutes again for the Bulls. It's just of what's left of them, and if they do get to the trade deadline and for some reason they're not able to move these guys and they are kind of stuck with this roster, which part of me does think is still a possibility, specifically if their asking price is going to be too high, I do wonder how much more they can push Lonzo Ball a little bit. And if we can just see him out there contributing a little bit more, 17, 18 points minutes a game right now is nice, but is there a second level to what Lonzo can do for this roster? It's just something I'm kind of wondering. I know they're playing it safe, and I think the reason why they're playing it safe is because they're going to trade him, and they don't want to be stuck with him if he's hurt again, which I totally understand. That's a good business decision, even if it's not the best basketball decision, but obviously those things do not always go together. All right, so that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Bulls postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. We'll be back on Sunday. Sunday, we'll have a doubleheader. We'll do a Bulls postcast show as soon as the Bulls 76ers game ends, and then we will all hope Thomas Brown gets his first win as the Bears head coach. And then we'll do a Locked On Bears postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel on Sunday as well. So for tonight, thank you for watching. Bulls lose 132-123. And thank you for listening, as always, to people on the audio feed. We will talk to you on Sunday, and peace.